So, Jeff Regan, everybody.
Can you all hear me okay? Sometimes I get a little quiet. Just raise your hand if I do, and just say a little louder, please. Okay, well, Ed, 140 members is impressive, and we're working on that goal at Tri-County. We don't quite have that many yet, but our membership is growing, and it's in part, or mainly in part, because we provide programming. I think that's one of the reasons, and it's something that we started a few years ago, and we've been getting more popular, and yes.
I'm sorry, where's Tri-County Radio?
Oh, sorry. Tri-County Radio meets in Union Township, which is in Union County. That's where our headquarters are, and we meet twice a month, first and third Mondays at 7:30 p.m. at the Elks at 5 Points. If you need the address, it's 281 Chestnut Street. I know you were asking for that reason. Thank you. Gene, right? Thank you. Okay, so it's one of the things that I think Ed and I agree on is that we do want to improve our relationships with surrounding clubs, because there are basically a lot of potential friendships and great resources, and also some good intellectual property that is willing to share its knowledge between each other. So having said that, thank you for having me here tonight. It's really an honor. I want to let you guys know this is my first presentation to a group that's not my own club. Okay, and I feel it. So please bear with me. I'll be doing a lot of reading off the paper, but I refuse to look at the screen. I'll be looking at you while I'm doing that. And I think it's time to proceed. So I think we did the commercial. Everything good?
It's great.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you. All right, so here we go. Okay, I'm not sure why your club has chosen me, this guy over here, to represent best operating practices in etiquette, but I'm happy to be here. I guess I should start by giving a little background. It started out as a kid, and so did I. I took everything apart. My dad would pick up the TV or radio, and the bottom would be on the table, and he'd be holding the chassis in his hands, the cabinet. He'd take the radio almost every week to the corner TV repair shop to have it fixed, only I didn't tell him the truth, and that is that I heard him coming, and I basically put the tubes back in just before he got into the room so I wouldn't get in trouble. Problem is, I didn't necessarily put them in the right places. I didn't have time, so I think he suspected something. As I got older, I fixed little items in the house, made friendship with the local radio guy that used to do the repairs. Lord knows I was in his shop often enough. I never realized until I was much older that he was a ham. And, sorry? Okay. I always wanted to try ham radio, but did not truly understand how to go about it. In my late teens, I went to New York City very early one morning to take the FCC radio exam. And that was for first-class radio operator, first-class radio telephone. Unfortunately, I was not an early bird in those times, and when I had too much coffee, I had to leave the exam in the middle of it, and the examiner wouldn't let me back in. That was Varick Street, for any of you who ever were there. And so I decided I was going to be rescheduled for a later date, and I was angry, and I said, no, forget this. And I let that go for a good number of years. Until one day, my wife and I, KY2MMM, anybody know her? Jordan? Okay, lovely lady. She and I went to a computer fest down in Trenton at the college, and the people who admitted us had a big satellite ham radio receiver on their table. So I was asking, what is that? And he said, oh, there's a ham radio, satellite receiver, and this and that, and I was very interested. He says, well, we have about a 1 hour cram, and then we can give you a test. And I said, what the heck? So I did it. And I walked out with my CSCE, and that was the biggest mistake. No, I mean, the rest is history. Okay, so I was very happy I did that, and I had great mentors along the way. So a little background. I attended the Institute of Metrology and Instrumentation and later some college. I worked in electronics repair. I did installations of sound systems in malls. Yes, my wife has probably been to every mall up and down the East Coast. I am a retired Roselle Park Special Officer as well as other things a long time ago. I went back to take the FCC exam. Nope, I'm just rerunning myself. I'm sorry. Okay, oh, I see. I wanted to tell you guys, when Kim got her vanity call, it was KY2MMM, and people used to go, oh, that sounds like right? I said, that's great. And I said, what's KC2BRF? That was my original call sign. Oh, that sounds like barf. So I went for my vanity call sign, and that's probably what drove me to do it. My family later followed suit. We're all hams, E.M.Ts, involved with Domestic Violence Resource Team, Red Cross Disaster Services, CPR instructors, volunteers in our community, scouts, and all involved in emergency communications, Skyward A.R.E.S, N.T.S, O.E.M, and R.A.C.E.S. Our enjoyment comes from the people we meet at radio clubs. Thank you guys, it's been a pleasure so far, and especially when we travel. We bought a repeater from an estate of a silent key. An application was submitted, and because I was the extra in the family, they assumed that that would be the great call sign for the repeater, and we were coordinated. So this being my first presentation, I hope I don't put you guys to sleep. It turns out that the guy at the radio shop that I met when I was 6 to 7 and 8 years old, that he was a ham. His name was Al Jones, if anybody remembers, W2GO. Did you know him, Rich?
Yes, I did.
Well, he was my first mentor, but I didn't know it until many years later. He was a member of Tri-County and had already moved out to, I think, to Nebraska before I had become a member. Boy, what an opportunity that would have been to have met my old friend from way back when. He was the nicest guy I've ever known in the business of radio TV repair, and he died by electrocution. It was. So we were sorry to see Mr. Jones do that. Okay, let me get to the first page. All right. Ham radio is a lot like starting school. I said I wouldn't look at the pictures. So ham radio is a lot like starting school. There are different activities, levels, and grades. It even fits a scholastic profile. There's an old saying about which Robert Fulghum wrote a best-selling book called Everything I Really Know, I Learned in Kindergarten. I truly believe the parallels the ham radio world. Starting at the technician level, everything I really needed to know in ham radio, I learned as a tech. Okay, you study hard. Some even attended a class. Some classes are over time, and some are crammed into a day or two. You learn basics, the laws, the safety, and the rules. You get tested, see if you really studied. But then what? Like school, everyone wants to jump ahead to the next grade. For what? Why? Why do we want to rush? Did you actually get to use and enjoy what you learned? How do you apply the knowledge? I always believe that a technician license is the door to learning. What is a PL? What is an offset? You don't get all that from a one-day class. So you do have to have a mentor to help you, teach you, and make you feel comfortable in the hobby that you chose to be part of. Okay? Rediscover radio. Think about it. What did you learn in kindergarten? You learned manners, how to wait your turn, listen to your teacher, some basic knowledge of math and how to interact with others. The ham radio world follows the same rules. Remember to flush. Yeah. That's pretty basic. I haven't gotten that down yet, though. Working on it. Okay. One gets their license. Hopefully, you've met a teacher or an Elmer along the way, either in class, via a friend, or at a VE session. If not, one should join a club, because how does one know that they are operating properly? This is a key. I always thought it should be made mandatory, but that's just my opinion. By the way, if you guys have any questions, feel free to either raise your hand or just say it. I'll stop and entertain it if I can. If I can't answer your question, I'll get your email address and I'll get the answer that you're looking for. Send it to you. Okay, that wasn't me, by the way. That was before I lost my hand. Never mind. The Elmer not only could be instrumental in getting one started, but help with the safety issues that maybe needed to be addressed. Sorry, that's blurry. Can everybody read the part on the top that says manners? Starts with manners. All right. I didn't know if it was clear or not. I know the chart is a little blurry. You get access to a radio, whether it be a portable or an HF rig. Get familiar with it before turning it on, especially with HF. It is annoying to be in the middle of a QSO. You've landed the best contact in the contest, and then out of nowhere you have somebody tuning up over you because the auto-tuner immediately turns on with the rig. Make sure your equipment is working properly and you check the frequencies you are utilizing so they are within the bands allowed. Class, I guess, restrictions. Remember to operate 3 kilohertz below upper edge and the lower edge below the, above the lower edge and below the upper edge, except on 60 meters where they have channels, and I guess you operate in the center at that point. All right, repeater uses. So 3 examples. Although hurricane nets are also on specific locations on 75 rating meters. No one owns a frequency. That's no surprise, right? Except the government or shared frequencies, etc., assuming all rules and modes are being followed. Use simplex when possible for short distance communications. Make sure you fully understand Part 97 of Title 47. That's your operating Bible. Listen, and that's what I need. I need ears that size. They're almost there. With the lack of time in everyone's schedules, operators are eager to dive in as soon as they have a free moment or a break or at work at home. Break at work or home. Go ahead, turn on your radio, wait. Sit and listen. Listen for voices. Listen to see what type of conversation is in progress. Is it a QSO? Is it a net? Is it an emergency call sign? You do not need to add portable, mobile, or listening also, unless it is a true emergency. Skip the break. This is not a CB. If it's an emergency, say emergency. This way, it is clear what you need. Oh, and by the way, when keying up, do not keep keying up and releasing. There really is no purpose in kerchunking a repeater. I thank you personally for that one. Okay, repeater owner's rule. I think that's a double entendre. I'm not sure what areas. Now, in return, the owners of the repeaters keep the equipment in good repair. We all want our repeaters to work and not crackle, if possible. All right, this is entirely, sometimes the repeater owners or trustees are monitoring 24/7. All repeaters have rules. They sometimes go beyond Part 97. Users who refuse to comply may be asked to leave the repeater, and this is entirely the judgment of the owner or trustee, and that's part of the FCC rules 97.205E. Limiting the use of repeater to only certain user stations is permissible. There are no qualifications to this rule. A repeater does not have to advertise or list in the directory as closed, but it can be limited to use by a certain group. The ARRL even states all users must follow the rules of the repeater. It is not a public utility. You are a visitor. So act like a wanted guest. Each repeater has its own repeater culture. If you do not, by the way, so does the Union County Traffic Net. If you do not like the way the repeater is operated, try another. Do not argue with the owner or the trustee. This all seems so obvious, but these are the most basic operating skills. Over and over we hear them being violated. When a group of amateurs were polled over the past year, some of these were the most common pet peeves declared. If you wish to speak with a certain person, give their call sign, then yours, and wait. If no response, repeat. On HF, call CQ and your call. You may repeat. When done, and you wish to say 7-3, best regards, or 8-8, or 88, hugs and kisses, do not add an S at the end. It is not 73s and 88s. It's like having double S's at the end of words. Hopefully, the people I've heard doing this don't have a real lisp. Now you have joined the conversation, what do you say? This question assumes that one is not on a net or on a construction project. Talk as if you are face-to-face with the person. Initial groups or cutisms, or shall I say initial groups. or cutisms as my spouse calls them, or phonetics really don't have a place unless it is hard to hear. Now, I'm an exception because I have a hard time hearing you sometimes, and I might ask you to give your call on an FM repeater in phonetics. It's because of my history, and now that I'm old enough, I can appreciate my losing my hearing and all the abuse I gave myself to work up to this point. So I will ask, and under conditions where it's not clear, it's a matter of not format, but personal need and understanding. You got that? All right. Yes?
I would take exception to that, in the fact that, especially when you announce on the video that you're listening, a lot of calls can sound like other calls. So you're much better off getting phonetics than not getting phonetics. And the other thing is, if you said monitoring a repeater, it's a good idea to say which one it is, because some people have 3 or 4 scans. The scanner going on 3 or 4 repeaters. And if somebody comes on and says, something's AC monitoring, well, which one do I answer? So if you say monitoring 4/7, this is usually a call, monitoring 4/7. Anybody who's listening has to, first they have to perk up and listen. So the phonetics give them a chance to catch the call properly. And then mentioning what repeater it is tells them that they're scanning, which one to go.
Okay, well, that's a good point. And also, you have to make your announcement long enough that when you're using a scanner, it actually catches that repeater if it's in the scan mode. You want to...
And give a little more time before you start talking.
Right.
For the repeater to...
That's right. That's right. How many seconds do you recommend? I do 3.
3 is good, yeah.
Okay. And that the reason for that... I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
After you hit the button, you wait 3 times?
I do. And the reason it's a cultural...
Time period you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Key up first, wait 3 seconds. It makes sure that the repeaters come up. In our case, when we have the link system going on, we have Echolink involved. And there's always a delay between the repeater, the Echolink node that goes into the main hub of Echolink, and then coming back through the repeaters again. So it is always a habit to get into for me. And I do that over the air, probably not so much on simplex, but I have programmed a 1-second courtesy tone delay in my own repeater. That gives people a chance. They just have to not key right up over each other. You know, a little courtesy really goes a long way. So I understand where you're coming from, and I used to be an audio person, and I had no trouble understanding syllables, any sound at all. I could even tell who was going to talk before they spoke when they keyed up their radio. That's gone. Okay, going downhill fast in the hearing department, and I need to have phonetics. Other people may need them for their own reason, and that is justifiable. It's just a basic, what was I going to say? Format. That it's a guideline. It's not a rule. It's not a law. It's just a guideline of what they recommend. FM, and it was very clear to me at one point I didn't need to have phonetics. So now I see as an older man that I was more of a wise, as a younger man, thinking, why would that guy do that? Now I understand. And I don't know if this is age-related or maybe the speaker you're using, the repeater, the microphone of the user. There's a lot of reasons. And while I'm on that, I'm not always happy about the range of audio levels from one radio brand to another. Some of these radios have 25 kilohertz deviation, it seems, on FM. And then they'll be talking to somebody with about 400 hertz of deviation. And you have to play with your volume control to keep the conversation going. Otherwise, you're going to miss, either have to turn it down and miss the guy that's coming back, or turn it up to hear him. And then the other guy's too loud again. I don't know if anybody else shares that or not, but it seems like it's a common recent phenomenon.
Jeff, while you're on that slide, repeater owners rule, I want to ask you a tough question, which maybe can't be answered well. So the repeater owners own the repeater, and they can ask you not to use it. On the other hand, no one owns the frequency. So how can anyone keep you from using that frequency?
Well, because they own the repeater, and they have the right to not let you use that.
They don't own the frequency there.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, but a certified letter, this is just part of the, I've never sent one out. So I can't.
Providing the service.
It's a good question. Carl asked a good question.
Jeff, point back here.
I think if
Oh, yeah.
if it's a coordinated repeater, you have more of a a say in it because you are coordinated. If it's uncoordinated, then, you know, you're just out there and, you know, you're not really playing by rules.
The coordinator is not the FCC.
No, it's
Coordinator is
not.
a volunteer group like us.
Yeah.
Okay, so you bring a good point. I'm gonna have a discussion. I'll bring it back to my club. Yes, Dave.
To talk on a frequency, you're talking simple. You're not getting the repeater because in order to get the repeater, you have to have a CL. So in order to get the repeater,
Some repeaters are still open, but I don't know that qualifies as a difference or not. You know, if the airwaves are free, then I guess the bottom line, Carl, is that we have to follow a certain protocol. As hams, that we automatically seem to have a more civilized approach to communicating than we did maybe before we knew that ham existed. You know, and like what's it called? The gateway to ham radio that we all, or most of us, actually had before we became hams. We behaved differently because everyone else did also.
It seems that, you know, repeater owner's rule is because actually you're using their equipment to communicate.
Right.
If you had your own repeater, then it would be different, but I mean, they don't own the frequency, but you're using their equipment to
Right. We own the
go
repeater.
talk to someone else in a way that you normally, you know, in other words, you can't reach somebody by simplex, so you use a repeater to get a farther range.
Right. And essentially most people don't require permission. I mean, people will come on to LI and nobody says, you know, is it okay if I use this machine? And expect a trustee to come back and say, well, I'll tell you what, email me first and we'll approve you. You know, or send in a check or whatever, join our club. We don't do that. I don't know anywhere in the area that does. I know that there are clubs out in northwestern New Jersey that won't talk to me because I'm not a member. And it's the way it is, you know. But the point is, it's a choice by the owner or the group that owns and maintains the repeater, whether or not they're going to allow you to use it. And I don't know what the level of, what's the word I'm looking for, responsibility that you have to maintain that, where that starts or where that stops, because our coordination group that we have used is not very vocal lately. I'm not sure, you know, when the last time they did an update or publication from Metro Corps. So I don't know how much teeth they really have when it comes to issues like this. I think, though, the fact that we do police each other and we're right out there with our names and calls, there's an automatic responsibility that goes with that. So take that for what it's worth, Carl. Any further?
No?
Okay.
It's a hard question.
There's a hard question. It requires thought.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, and thank you, and thank you. Okay, so remember that radio chatting is like the olden day third-party phone conversations. Okay, they are public. You never know when the operator's listening in. I remember overhearing a ham speaking with his wife about his daughter, and boy, am I glad he's not here tonight. His daughter was passing into womanhood, and his wife wanted him to go to the drugstore. So everybody heard that. Tri-County has pretty good coverage. So anyway, he to this day has not lived it down, as far as I know. It is not for public. If it's not for public, it's not conversation for the radio. Remember this as you prepare for that trip or discuss someone else going on vacation. That's particularly important because some bad guy might be listening on a scanner, has your call, which can be referenced on the internet for personal information. And the fact that you're leaving your residence unoccupied, just be mindful. Also, remember we are not allowed to conduct commercial business on the air. By the way, never talk about other people. They may be using scanners or listening. The ham radio world is a very small one. Everyone knows everyone eventually. And let me say it's a pleasure to get to meet you guys tonight, and hopefully I'll know you all better soon. What you said will be repeated. Like school, there will always be a tattletale. All conversations must be rated G. Kids are hams too. I was my 5th grade teacher. Many years ago. Okay, speak to your fellow ham with respect and politeness. How would you wish to be spoken to? If someone is breaking a rule, a phone call or private conversation is best. Remember, When that teacher yelled at you in front of the entire class, how did you feel? On the other hand, if an Elmer, and we are all Elmers at times to someone, Elmer politely points out an operating flaw or gives you a tip, do not argue and talk back on the air. Okay, it makes us look like as if we are unwelcoming. Most operators only want the best for ham radio and are not trying to be mean. Although I'm not sure about everybody. All right. This is my favorite. On the other hand, if someone, the one we call a jammer, is interfering, do not acknowledge. Ignore and listen. Letting you guys know, you know Danny from New York City? He's out of jail.
No, great.
Yeah, and I think he's already been doing malicious things to the Jersey Shore Amateur Club. So if you hear somebody jamming, it's probably related to him or himself. I know. That's the way it is, Dave. You know, they couldn't keep him in there. Okay, so can you figure out or isolate the repeater that they are using? If it's using a link system, listen but do not operate on the input. If the signal is stronger in one area and you're in a mobile and stronger than another area, you can report to your OO, which is an official observer. In our area, that's AA2ZJ, Jerry Miller. Run a fox hunt if needed. We did a nice fox hunt with our club, the one that Barry K2JV belongs to. We went partners on a fox hunt, and it was a very successful event. We did a little better than them, but we might have had more experience, and I think we're going to turn it over to them next year at N Park and let them lead it. But maybe in times to come, we can all have maybe a Northern New Jersey fox hunt on some level.
Good job.
Yes.
The Bergen Amateur Radio Association holds 2 fox hunts, one around April and one around October.
Okay.
Anybody's welcome to participate. Up here in Bergen County area.
That would be great. Can you send me an email? It's NJ5R@yahoo.com. Or you can send it to NJ5R at A.R.E.S. All right? Thank you very much for that. There's a lot of people in our group that have very good equipment. One of our guys, Walter, W2ED, spent somewhere between $400 and $500 for a receiver box with an offset attenuator and a very directional antenna that it attaches right to, and it works beautifully. And maybe we can get him to come up and demonstrate that. That'd be nice. So please get in touch. You can find us on Facebook also, Tri-County Radio Association. Please check in. Okay, so do not engage in conversations with or about the jammer. If needed, switch frequencies. Do not have a conversation with anyone who refuses to ID or is using a false call sign. You may not realize it at first, but eventually they will give themselves away. If possible, record, noting the date and time and frequency. Keep a log. It may seem to be an outdated practice, but it may save headaches. We have already discussed jammers and people using false call signs. Even if you are not on HF, you may become a victim. But do not worry, you can refer to your log. Another reason may come down to interference. A rule many follow is your outdoor antenna being visible. If you do install an outdoor antenna, don't use it right away. Wait a few weeks. One example of that was K2SO. He set up a tower in his house in Elizabeth and had a beautiful, I forgot what the brand name is, but it's a nice quality multi-band beam on the top. And he didn't have the coax run for about a month. And in between, after he erected this beautiful system, his next door neighbor complained to him that her washing machine has been screwing up ever since he started using his radio. He then told her and showed her his log was empty and that he had not been operating yet. The wires have not been run, connected to the radio, and it had to be something else.
You were mentioning somebody who's got it, yeah? What's the backstory of that?
Okay, that would be Danny DeLeese, I think?
Yeah, please.
Right? Okay. Danny has been developing his jamming skills for quite some time. He knows how to get access to amateur radio equipment, to F.A.S. equipment, to police communications equipment. What got him in jail was he got a hold of a police radio and called in a false report, sent numerous cops to a particular address, and they tracked him down and they put him in jail. We've been trying to get him from the amateur side for years, and New York City Police Department got him within a month or so of him doing that and got him right into jail. He is, however, back out, and so beware. If some unusual behavior takes place on your repeater or somewhere else in your life on F.A.S. or in other communications, he might be part of that. So, don't take him on, at least not on the amateur bands. It's just not a good idea because he'll come right back at you. He's done this before. Yes?
There's on 14.315, almost every day there's a VE7 that plays loud music and four-letter words. And
really?
Just engaged. He's been there for a couple of years, and CIA can't seem to do anything about it.
Wow.
And the problem is, and you're relating to the same thing, some people go back to him and start, hey, wait a minute, you've got to cut that out. Or they actually get involved talking to him. Well, wait a minute, if he talks to nobody for a month,
he's broadcasting.
They're going to run out of interest.
Right,
right. But these guys that continue to talk to him, it's unbelievable, but the CIA has not been able to find him, and he's still there all the time, whenever the band is open to
wow,
hear.
interesting. He might not be in Canada. Maybe he's going to the North Pole.
He sounds his call.
Right. Had people tried to fox hunt him? Because that would be the ultimate, wouldn't it?
Jammers thrive on attention.
Exactly.
You don't give them attention, they'll go away.
Well, if we find him, that's another problem is how limited in powers we are. We could track the guy down, make recordings, take notes, keep a log, submit it to the FCC, and say, this guy is interfering, we're trying to police our bands like you gave us, the privilege to do, and we need you to do something about this guy. And every now and then you'll see a write-up in the newsletter or on QRZ or on ARL. They'll say, the FCC fined so-and-so $10,000, and we all clap our hands and say, good, we got another one. But we didn't get all of them. And for some reason they go after some people and they don't go after others. That's all I can say on that. Any other questions so far? Yes?
Another reason to keep a log is not for yourself, it's for the guys you're talking to. Because they may be wanting your contact for an award or a county or a state or something like that. If you don't log it, they don't get the credit for having contact with you. So it's not just for yourself to keep the log, but it's important to log it, especially to LTW, log it as well. So that the other guy, if he needs you for an award credit, gets the credit.
Good point. And everybody hear him okay? All right. I think that's truly reasonable. I think that, going to the point where you can't keep a log when you're in the car. That's very difficult. And a lot of people, like myself, usually only get on the air when I'm going from point A to point B. It's a short window, and I can't remember all the people I might have talked to and go back and do a log and reflection. I can't. So it's only practical up to a point. And if you're home and if you're on HF, that's another story. HF, I think, is really important to keep that log in. I've gotten QSLs from people that I did not even remember talking to. So there you go. Good point.